I really like role-playing and simulation for an advanced instructional strategy because it offers students the ability to be creative, and it also offers them great leadership opportunities among their peers. It also gives students a really great opportunity to learn about different research methods and methods that they will actually need later on in life if they are in college or if part of their career involves researching and things like that. Um, and role playing can also help them approach things from a different perspective, which is going to be very helpful later on in life. So, an example for a role playing simulation that I would do in maybe a history or government classroom would be a Supreme Court simulation. So, for instance, what I would do is maybe pick out a court case that we are going over in the unit plan. So, let's just say we pick Miranda versus Arizona for our court case. And the holding in this court case was that police must inform suspects of their rights before arresting them. It's a landmark court case in our history. Um, so if I were to do a simulation for this type of court case, I would probably want to block off about a week in my unit plan, just because they're going to need about 2 to 2.5 days for research, and then the rest of the time can be the actual simulation itself. Um, I mean, and this would be probably most beneficial in a classroom of 20 to 30 people. I would separate the classroom into 3 different groups, the first of which is going to be 9 Supreme Court justices. And in the spirit of democracy, I would have the class vote on who they were going to have be the Supreme Court justices. So there's probably going to be about 9 of them. Just to make it as real as possible. And then I would also split the rest of the class into 2 groups of my choosing. And then obviously these are going to be the prosecution and the defendants. And I would then have the students research the case for about 2 days. In these 2 days, I would expect them to have researched the case and have formed their own argument. And in those 2 days, obviously it would probably be most beneficial for them to either bring their old laptops from home or go to the library. And as the teacher, I would be kind of walking around and seeing what each of them is doing, making sure they're staying on track, and just helping them with any questions they might have and helping them form their argument. And I also really like this because it helps them form a different perspective. So maybe they'd be on one side of the argument, but if they're being told to argue the other side, it's going to really help them get that different multiple perspective. So then let's say that you take 2 days to do the research portion of this simulation. Then in the remaining 3 days, you can have the actual court case. And to make things kind of interesting and fun for the students, I would have them dress up like lawyers and be very professional, have them actually have papers, have them have a script to kind of read off of, and, also going along with that script, I would make sure as the teacher that you teach them about how in a court case you have the opening statements, the argument, and the rebuttal, and make sure they understand that whole process, and then have them come up with their own opening statement, their argument, and then obviously their rebuttal for the other side. And when the simulation begins, have it structured like a real Supreme Court. So have both sides present their opening statements, then their arguments, and then their rebuttals. And then at the end of it, it can be up to the Supreme Court justices to make the decision. And obviously they might rule in favor of how the case was decided years ago, or they might rule differently depending on the argument and how the class presented their own arguments. And so to kind of conclude why I really think that role-playing and simulations are important is because this type of advanced learning strategy is awesome because it offers students an opportunity to conduct research, collaborate with their peers, and demonstrate their knowledge and what they've learned. And it's a way to be creative with your students and to have them engaged. And there's no better way than learning than to actually put yourself in the situation and learn it from that type of perspective. So that concludes this video about role-playing and simulation.